this?
Hello, Dick. How are you?
Good. Henry and I are down here at my office with Pat Gray.
Yeah.
Let me give you his version of it before we discuss the ramifications of it.
Right.
I describe his attitude. Several days after the apprehension of the Watergate buggers, he was asked to come over and met in John Ehrlichman's office. Walked in and there was Dien. Part of the conversation was John Dien, Ehrlichman saying nothing. John Dien says, Pat, here are some highly sensitive, very secret files that were in the possession of Howard Hunt that have nothing to do with the Watergate case. They are of a very, very secret, sensitive nature. He did not describe their contents. They should not be put in the FBI files, and they should never see the light of day. Here, you take them. The substance of it. Pat took the documents. John Dien. He stayed there with John Ehrlichman and said nothing about the documents, and they were talking about apprehension and concern that you had about leaks from the FBI. Pat then left that office, went home, had trips to make, left him at home. When he came back on a Sunday night, this occurred on a Thursday or a Friday. When he came back on a Sunday night, he then took the documents down to his office without looking at them, tore them into bits, put them in his burn basket, and they were destroyed. That's Pat's feeling. Now, I said, Pat...
But he then is not going to say anything.
He will not say that...
Not say that he was ordered to destroy them.
No.
That
pressed upon cross-examination as a result of what Dien said. He said that I had to gather Dien as being, a representative of the President of the United States. That I had to just infer from his remarks that since I didn't see the light of day, they were of such highly sensitive nature, and could not be put in the FBI files. He just concluded himself they ought to destroy them. Now that's quite a bit different, than getting a specific direction.
Yeah.
But I think, Pat, as I do, you press him to the wall, and Pat would say that the only fair inference that I could gain from my conversation with John Dien, with Ehrlichman present, was that they had to be destroyed. He would not say...
It was Dien that told him this.
Yeah. But he would not say that he was specifically ordered to destroy them.
Yeah.
So now we are talking in this vein. Pat, if you testify before a grand jury, we all have to assume that that's going to go out and hit the streets, which are a monumental leap there, where you're in no position to go throw lawyers in jail.
That's right.
Because of the atmosphere.
That's right.
So suppose that this very statement that you gave us, that you made public tomorrow, you just got the pressing and said, this is what happened. What would that do with respect to your ability to, thereafter, manage the Federal Bureau of Investigation? He said it would be a disaster. So I said, well, Pat, that's where we are, logically. If it should come out, and indeed it is because of all the leaks that we have, isn't that where we are? He feels that for him to resign is an admission of guilt of some kind.
Right.
And I said, Pat, as far as I can see, you haven't done anything criminally wrong, But just in light of all the facts and circumstances of the Watergate case,
his ability to conduct the office.
It's just an impossible situation for you to manage that bureau. And that is where we wound up before I called you, because I told him that I wanted to, he's in the other room with Henry, to report to you what he said in the context of it. Ray, as you know, is a soldier, and he's going to do a goddamn thing.
I know.
Henry and I,
you and Henry feel that nothing should be done tomorrow, then?
No, that isn't true, sir. Henry and I feel, and we're trying to get across to Pat without just denuding him. He's got to resign. How do you want us to proceed tonight?
But how would we do it? Now, you should say nothing tonight.
Oh, I'm not talking about tonight, but I'm trying to make a decision on that.
Yeah. But in terms of the resignation, and I know he's always raising the problem of what about Ehrlichman, and in this case, and I raised the problem with Dien. What about Dien? And he says, Peterson is they're going to have to get Dien. You know what I mean? Dien's lawyers are still saying, we're going to want immunity and all that sort of thing. And you gave him immunity?
in opposition to you, the government of the United States, everybody he's associated with.
That's right.
John Diem is going to find himself in a very, very small narrow corner, Mr. President.
And that's the point. He's going to be, as I told you, you strike a king.
That's right.
On Pat, what's your advice? What do you and Henry think? You understand? I'll take care of my problems. Let me tell you, you can tell Peterson. I mean, and he I've got my own problem, but I got to handle my own way. I'm not going to draw. This is a little bit different version than Peterson told me. Peterson told me that Ehrlichman had ordered that Gray was going to say that Ehrlichman had ordered him to destroy the documents. Now that proves not to be true, is it?
That's correct.
See, I want the damn truth. I don't care whether I know Peterson hates Ehrlichman, and that's all right too. But I don't want Peterson to mislead me like that.
Peterson doesn't hate Ehrlichman, but let me give you an event that occurred last summer, Mr. President, in August when I was out of here on my vacation. On a particular Sunday, when I was out of the city, John Ehrlichman called up Peterson. In a very, very intemperate way, gave him instructions with respect to what he ought to do in this goddamn matter. Henry Peterson hadn't been the mature kind of fellow that he was. And the
instructions about in what way?
Press.
But not to cover up or anything.
No, but, just the whole manner in which we were investigating this thing and doing it and everything else.
I see.
That really rubbed Henry the wrong way.
I get it. Well, I understand. I don't understand. I like Peterson. I mean, myself. You know what I mean? You trust him now, don't you?
Who, Henry?
Yes.
Mr. President, if I learn tomorrow that Henry Peterson has been duplicitous in this,
all right.
I don't know what the hell I'd do.
Some say not, but I mean, I understand. I'm talking to him. I'm talking to him as he's my counsel now, and I want you to know that.
Mr. President, you trust me, don't you?
Of course.
Yeah, then I trust Henry Peterson.
I'm sure. But my point is,
I've trusted this guy.
Yeah, my point is now come back to the judgment. What do Peterson and you think Gray ought to do?
We're in the process of telling Pat that he's got to resign.
That he should do it on the basis that it's totally, but that this is another of the. I mean, that in view of he thinks his ability to, in view of the charge that has been made, that this. Should say exactly what happened here, that he was delivered these documents, that he was told they were not in any way related to the Watergate case. They were, what did he say, politically sensitive?
Highly sensitive for national security reasons. They should not see the light of day, nor should they be put in the FBI files. On that basis, he took them. Two incredible aspects of this, Mr.
Didn't open it.
Number one, he didn't say, well, why the fuck are you giving them to me? Why don't you destroy them yourself?
That's right. Well, if that's why his destruction line won't work, you see.
Yeah, and then not knowing what was in him, and not being specifically ordered to destroy him, why did he destroy him?
Yeah, and why didn't he look into them and see what they were?
Or why didn't he look at them?
Yeah.
And then he says, well, I gathered the very clear import of Mr. Dean's remarks that they were given to me for the purpose of being destroyed.
Oh, boy, no.
The conclusion that he arrived at.
No, he must, let me say, Pat must not say that publicly.
He'll say it to a grand jury.
If he says that, that's a conclusion that he says, but that's public. But my point is, if he says, White House counsel, well, of course, Dean is going to ordered him to destroy.
He will not say that, sir.
That he drew that conclusion.
Yeah.
All right, but you understand that makes him look like a goddamn. It looks like they're
a goddamn fool.
Not only looks like a fool, but it looks like the two of them together were conspiring to destroy evidence.
That's right.
They can't do it. He's got to put it. Pat's got to put it.
And I've gone over this thing with him 10 times.
He's got to put it in terms.
He won't do it. He'll say this: I was not specifically ordered to destroy him. Dean says, Pat, here's some documents. The most sensitive documents. They have nothing to do with the Watergate case. They pertain to national security matters. They should never see the light of day, and they should not be in the FBI file.
And all right, okay.
He takes them, goes back and destroys them, because he concludes from remarks
loyal fellow, and sometimes
also
just
very rigid.
Rigid as he can be, but let me say one thing. I mean, he's interested in the presidency, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
The presidency. I must say that on this point, the worst thing he could say would be to come out of here. I was ordered to destroy these documents, or even that I gathered the impression that Mr. Dean wanted me to destroy. That's practically the same thing, see?
I think you'd say that, Mr. President. Huh? I think you're going to say that.
Do your best on that, though. I mean, you see my point?
Sure, I see it.
I mean, you tell him, Pat, that just doesn't add up. It's going to make it sound like hell.
And we've gone over it with him about 10 times.
And that's what he was. Is that what he would say tomorrow? You mean, or nothing?
Well, he'll say nothing tomorrow if we tell him not to.
Yeah.
Wait until he goes to the grand jury.
What would he do tomorrow? Resign? Why? Because of this charge?
He doesn't want to resign. He himself thinks if he resigned as a result of what's going to be in the newspaper, that would be a confession of guilt on his part, and that just brings the world down.
Well, under the circumstances, I mean, you haven't seen let's just put it this way. This matter is to be heard.
He's going to appear before the grand jury.
He'll appear before the grand jury. Do you think the grand jury can indict him for this?
No, sir.
You don't think so?
Henry and I do not believe. Let me just check that. Just 1 second, man.
Yeah.
Just hold on 1
That's
second.
the point.
Thank you, sir. Henry or I feel that, what he would say would be for an indictment. He hasn't committed any crime or violated any law. So
you mean, isn't it, is it part of the, well, what about the conspiracy to cover up of evidence and so forth?
No. I don't think that would.
No. He wasn't intending to cover anything up because they said it didn't have nothing to do with that. Bad judgment.
That's right.
I frankly think myself, I'm not of the view that just based on the newspaper story, then I'll reconsider. I'm not of the view that as of tomorrow, Pat Gray up and resigns. Okay. I think, frankly, we ought to treat him like we're treating the others. Say, God damn it, the grand jury. Let's see what the grand jury does. But at the end, Pat's going to be out anyway shortly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've got. I may move on this a little sooner.
Okay.
As a result of this. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but tell him that
just hold tight to
tell him I understand. And tomorrow. That's right. No, don't do a damn thing as a result of a newspaper story.
All right, sir.
Tell Peterson that. Nothing on the basis of newspaper. Tell Peterson when you're talking to him that I've appreciated his hard work in this thing, and he's given us his best counsel, but that I do feel that now, after all, Dean floated this story, Yeah, that's where it came from. The New York Times so reported directly from
Mr. President, just as I piece this whole thing together, trying to have objectivity in it, my experience with human beings and as a lawyer, one of the reasons particularly that I don't want to give immunity to John Dean is that I think out of desperation and hysteria and panic and fear, this poor young man is going to put himself in a corner, where he's going to be at odds with everybody. And he might go down very, very badly, but it might also, tend to kind of resurrect and rehabilitate other people. You understand what I'm trying to say?
In other words, that he's going to look like the bastard?
Yeah.
That's the way this thing better come out.
And that's the way
because it's the truth.
That's the way he's appearing to everybody.
It's the truth.
Mitchell, you, Pat Gray, Henry Peterson, me.
Well, what about, he had never taken you on, has he?
Well, I dealt with him all last summer on the assumption that, A, he didn't know anything about it. He was discussing, the general course of the investigation, on your behalf.
Right.
He had the same kind of conversations with Pat Gray, with Henry Peterson,
right.
With everybody, even with yourself.
Yeah. And now he's trying to pin everybody else with it. He says that, he
was just the innocent little pawn in victim,
God, one thing, I just stopped to think of it, even though I didn't, but did you know, I never saw him personally till saw him about this, and then it was about it because of the gray confirmation thing until February the 22nd.
Is that right?
Never.
You never discussed this matter with him?
Never.
Until February 22nd?
That's right.
That is a very...
Or February, wait a minute, let me just check my book here. 27th.
Of February?
27th of February, that's right.
You mean he
and
was
then,
not in your office?
Never. Except one time to sign my wills.
Right.
That's right. Look, that's the way we work here, you know. I mean, I put a man in charge, and that's...
listen to this little bastard. He's in there talking to you 4 times a day.
Oh, he has been since then. He was up...
But even last summer,
Last summer, I never... Well, you guess, let's get one thing straight. I, the president, never saw John Dinh once, except for the signing of the wills.
Until February 27th.
And that was on August the 14th. August 14th, the signing of the wills. That's the only time I ever saw him.
Isn't that interesting?
But everything that was put out by Ziegler, and he's not to blame, based on what Dinh told him. There was no Dinh written report, but my God, Dinh orally was. I mean, why do you think Dinh? Why in the world would you think Ziegler would get out and say no one in the White House is involved? Because Dinh told him one.
That's right.
Ziegler himself.
I understand all that, but I think the significant fact is that you yourself hadn't seen him.
Why, did he give you the impression he did see me?
Right, he gave everybody that impression.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, I do think that
as of tonight and tomorrow, Pat Gray will stay there as the director of the FBI.
I think he's going to stay there until I'll try to his successor within a reasonable time. But you know what I mean? He knows that, but he shouldn't just resign over this.
No,
I agree. It's a story.
Okay, sir.
Fine, but I don't think he should put out a story about his version of it.
No, he'll just go to the grand jury.
Yeah, he said
I'll tell.
Let me see.
Facts of the grand jury.
No, he says no. He said this is a newspaper. I'm not going to comment on a newspaper story. I'll be glad. I've asked to testify for the grand jury. That's what he should do.